You have spent your whole life caring too much about what people think, about what could go wrong, about how to keep everything under control. You wake up already chasing success, approval, perfection, but the harder you push, the heavier it all becomes. Until one day, something inside you just stops. You stop forcing. You stop begging life to cooperate. You stop caring. And suddenly, everything starts working. That's the paradox Dostoevsky understood better than anyone. He stood before a firing squad, seconds from death, and in that instant, he saw clearly. All the noise, the striving, the fear, none of it mattered. The very moment he let go of control, life revealed itself in perfect order. This is not about apathy. It's about freedom, the kind that begins when you stop gripping so tightly that nothing can move. Because the truth is, caring too much kills the flow of life. When you stop clinging, you start aligning. When you stop chasing, things start finding you. This is the philosophy of surrender, not defeat, but discovery. And through Dostoevsky's eyes, we'll uncover why letting go isn't giving up. It's the only way to finally live. We live in a world that worships control. Every self-help book, every success story, every motivational quote whispers the same message. Try harder, do more, care deeply, never stop. We are taught that control equals power and effort equals worth. But what if that's the illusion keeping you trapped? You think discipline will save you, but discipline without depth only hardens you. You think effort brings peace, but sometimes the more you fix, the more you fracture. You push, plan, optimize, measure, and yet, the more control you demand from life, the more it slips through your hands. It's like trying to hold water with a clenched fist. We call it ambition. We call it productivity. But beneath it, there's something quieter. Fear. Fear that if you stop trying, everything will fall apart. Fear that stillness means failure. Fear that if you don't keep moving, you'll be forgotten. But Dostoevsky saw through this illusion. He understood that our suffering doesn't come from chaos. It comes from the desperate attempt to tame it. He saw that human beings crave control not because they are strong, but because they are afraid. Afraid of uncertainty, of loss, of the truth that nothing is ever truly ours to command. In Notes from Underground, his broken narrator rages against reason and order because he knows that the rational pursuit of perfection leads to madness. The more you try to perfect life, the further you drift from living it. The more you force happiness, the faster it decays. And so, you build routines, schedules, systems, and mistake them for safety. But safety is not peace. It's a cage made of your own expectations. Dostoevsky's world was one where reason promised salvation, but delivered suffering. And in that world, just like ours, people mistook obsession for progress. They thought mastery would protect them from pain, yet it only deepened it. Because the truth is, control isn't strength. It's resistance disguised as order. It's the refusal to trust what you can't measure or manage. When you live like that, every outcome becomes a battlefield. Every delay a personal failure. Every imperfection an enemy to conquer. And the more you fight life, the more life fights back. And no one understood this better than a man who once stood before a firing squad. They lined him up against the wall, snow falling softly, dissolving into the mud beneath his boots. Fyodor Dostoevsky stood blindfolded, hands bound, breathing in what he thought would be his last few moments of air. A soldier raised a piece of white cloth. The signal. Rifles clicked. The order was about to be given. In those seconds, everything he once cared about, his books, his reputation, his ambitions, vanished. There was no audience left to impress, no purpose left to fulfill, only the unbearable weight of awareness. This is it. The final moment. He thought of his brother, his friends, the sunlight on the church dome he saw that morning. He thought of the taste of bread, of laughter, of time wasted on worry. And then he thought of nothing at all. Only the stunning, terrifying beauty of being alive. He later wrote about it through the character of Prince Mishkin in The Idiot. The condemned man, minutes from death, suddenly understands the infinite value of a single breath. Each second stretches into eternity. Each heartbeat becomes sacred. Life itself, something we rush through, complain about, try to control, reveals its unbearable preciousness the moment it's almost gone. And then, just as the rifles were lifted, a messenger arrived. The execution was cancelled. It had all been a performance, a mock execution, staged by the Tsar as a cruel lesson. In an instant, Dostoevsky was given back his life. The man who was ready to die was forced to live again. But he would never be the same. He had seen the edge, the silence after everything you care about is stripped away. And in that silence, he discovered something life could never teach, that control is an illusion, and surrender is the only truth. From that day forward, he no longer wrote like a man chasing success. He wrote like a man who had seen eternity. He began to understand that the human soul isn't saved by effort or order, but by awareness, the kind that can only come when everything you thought you needed has been taken from you. That day, Dostoevsky stopped caring, and he began truly living. Detachment is one of the most misunderstood ideas in life. People think it means coldness, shutting down your emotions, not caring about anything, floating above the world untouched. But Dostoevsky never spoke of indifference. He spoke of freedom. The kind that comes when you stop mistaking attachment for love and control for safety. There's a difference between not feeling and not clinging. Indifference numbs you. Detachment wakes you up. It isn't about caring less, it's about caring cleanly. Without ownership, without fear, without the constant demand that life obey your will. In Notes from Underground, Dostoevsky writes about a man who resists happiness, who mocks logic and rebels against reason itself. He does this because deep down, he knows something we all hide from, that humans don't really want peace. We want proof of our importance. We don't crave stillness. We crave control over how stillness arrives. We turn suffering into identity, control into virtue, and call it strength. But it's just ego disguised as discipline. The more you care about controlling every detail, the more you feed the self that fears losing control. That is the final trick of the ego, spiritualized effort. You tell yourself you're being responsible, when in truth you're just afraid to let go. You make your mind your God and your progress your religion. But all the while, life moves according to its own current, untouched, unstoppable, indifferent to your plans. Detachment, in Dostoevsky's sense, isn't an escape from life. It's a deeper participation in it. It's trusting the current instead of thrashing against it. It's aligning yourself with chaos, not fighting it. Finding the strange calm that comes from no longer needing to control every outcome. When you surrender, you stop creating resistance. You stop splitting reality into what you like and what you don't. You stop arguing with what is, and that's when the flow begins. That's when coincidences align, people appear, opportunities unfold, not because you forced them to, but because you finally stepped out of your own way. You've felt this before. The moment you stop obsessing over a problem, an answer arrives. The moment you stop clinging to someone, they call. The moment you stop forcing, things click. That's not magic. That's alignment. It's the universe responding to your stillness instead of your struggle. And it's the very truth Dostoevsky saw when he stopped caring, that life works best the moment you stop trying to make it. We live in an age that worships effort. Everywhere you look, someone is telling you to optimize, improve, evolve, upgrade. You scroll through an endless feed of people who look more disciplined, more successful, more in control than you. And slowly, without realizing it, you start to measure your worth in metrics, followers, productivity, progress. We replaced faith with optimization. The modern world sells you the same lie Dostoevsky warned about more than a century ago, that if you just try hard enough, you can eliminate suffering, that the right habits, routines, and mindset will finally bring you peace. But Dostoevsky knew better. He understood that humans don't just endure struggle. We need it. Without it, we become hollow. He wrote, "Man only likes to count his troubles. He does not calculate his happiness." That one line explains the whole sickness of our time. We don't seek peace. We seek friction, drama, something to resist. Because without resistance, we lose our sense of self. The modern world has made comfort its god, and yet we have never been more restless, anxious, or dissatisfied. Every convenience that was supposed to free us has only made us chase more control. We track our sleep, time, mood, calories, as if by perfect measurement we might fix the chaos inside. But all we're really doing is feeding the same illusion Dostoevsky saw in the Western dream of rational progress, the belief that reason and control could finally make us happy. It hasn't. It's just made us busier, emptier, and lonelier than ever. We've turned self-improvement into emotional capitalism. Meaning is now a product, sold through effort. Meditation becomes a challenge. Stillness becomes a performance. We chase peace like another achievement, never realizing that the chase itself is the problem. Dostoevsky's world was filled with people who believed perfection would save humanity. Our world is filled with people who believe productivity will save the self. Both are the same illusion. Both are prisons made of progress. And every time we think we've built a system to end our suffering, it just transforms it. We call it progress. Dostoevsky called it self-deception. There comes a moment when the noise stops. Not because the world has changed, but because you have. You stop chasing, stop bargaining, stop trying to make every piece fit perfectly. And somehow, the moment you stop caring so much, everything begins to flow. It feels like a quiet return. Not victory, not defeat, but peace. For years, you believed life needed your constant supervision. But it didn't. It just needed space to breathe. Letting go doesn't mean losing. It means surrendering the illusion that you were ever in control. And in that surrender, something new awakens. A rhythm, a natural order that had been waiting beneath all your effort. Think about the times in your life when things finally worked. The project that clicked after you stopped overthinking. The person who came back when you stopped chasing. The peace that arrived when you finally stopped explaining yourself. That wasn't coincidence. That was alignment. Psychologists call it the flow state, the effortless awareness that appears when you stop forcing. Dostoevsky understood this through a spiritual lens. He believed redemption is found not through perfection, but through acceptance, the courage to stop running from suffering and let it transform you. He wrote, "Suffering is the origin of consciousness. When you stop caring about controlling life, you begin to feel life again. You stop being the sculptor and become the clay, shaped, changed, refined by experience itself. And that's where authenticity lives. Not in who you think you should be, but in who you are when you finally stop pretending. The universe doesn't reward control, it rewards cooperation. And when you stop clinging, it's almost as if life takes a deep breath and says, finally, you're ready." Dostoevsky's revelation wasn't just philosophical, it was human. He realized that surrender is not weakness, it's the first real act of power. That clarity, creativity, love, all of it begins only when control ends. Because life doesn't start when you fix it. It starts when you stop trying to. Life begins where your obsession with control ends. In the frozen silence of Siberia, Dostoevsky lived what he once only wrote about. Chains around his wrists, frost biting through the skin, surrounded by men who had lost everything. And yet, in that desolation, something pure began to grow. He was broken, yes, but alive. And in that fragile space between pain and gratitude, he began to see suffering not as punishment, but as purification. Maybe your pain isn't here to destroy you. Maybe it's trying to cleanse you of the illusions you keep mistaking for truth. The illusion that you must be perfect to be loved. The illusion that life must make sense to be beautiful. The illusion that control keeps you safe. In Crime and Punishment, the murderer Raskolnikov spends the entire story trapped inside his mind, justifying, rationalizing, building walls of reason to avoid his guilt. But it isn't until he confesses, until he suffers consciously, that he begins to wake up. His redemption doesn't come from being right. It comes from breaking, from accepting that pain is not the opposite of life. It's proof of it. Suffering, when met with awareness, refines the soul. It burns away what's false until only what's real remains. Like gold veins running through cracked stone, beauty formed by pressure, not despite it. That's what Dostoevsky learned. To endure is not to lose, it is to evolve. He once wrote, "To be too conscious is a disease, a real, thorough disease." And yet, he devoted his life to consciousness, to feeling everything, no matter how much it hurt. Because only by facing the depth of our pain can we ever rise above it. Every wound you carry is an unfinished sentence. Every sorrow is a mirror, asking, will you resist this, or will you let it teach you? Pain, when accepted, doesn't shrink you, it shapes you. It turns fear into humility and despair into compassion. Dostoevsky walked through the fire and came out seeing the world differently. He learned that the same suffering that breaks us can also set us free. And if you let it, your suffering will do the same. Not to end your story, but to purify it into truth. We spend our lives trying to hold the world together, trying to make sense of chaos, trying to make everything perfect, as if perfection could save us from being human. But control was never the goal. It was the distraction. At some point, the effort collapses. You break or you stop. And in that stopping, you see clearly for the first time. You see that all your chasing was a form of fear, that all your striving was a way to hide from stillness, and that life never needed you to force it, only to let it happen. Dostoevsky discovered this not in comfort, but in despair. Standing on the edge of death, stripped of everything, he realized what few ever do, that peace doesn't come from mastery, it comes from surrender. That meaning doesn't appear when you conquer life, but when you let life touch you. The moment you stop caring, everything starts working. Because caring too much about control, about outcome, about image, blinds you to the quiet intelligence already moving beneath it all. You were never meant to push the river. You were meant to flow with it. So stop counting, stop clinging, stop fighting the way things are. Let them move through you. Let them shape you. Let them work. Because the art of not caring isn't about giving up. It's about giving in to life as it is, not as you demand it to be. When you stop gripping so tightly, the universe finally has room to breathe through you. Stop caring. Not because nothing matters, but because everything does.